Okay, for those of you guys who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Kidd. I don't think that anybody doesn't know me in here, so we're good. So math thinking maps is what I put on here, but thinking maps are used for anything, okay? So don't think that this is just about math. You just have to be, I love math, y'all know that. So I relate everything I can possibly to math. But in math thinking maps, we're gonna talk about what is thinking maps in general. So Dr. David Harold actually created thinking maps. So there's this whole thinking map model that you can go through and look at. He's got several books that you can actually get them from too. But the cool thing about it is, what is a thinking map?
I was just going to check on you because I was on my way over and then Alex stopped me and then I ended up being late, so I just wanted to check on you.
A blister. Short legs. Every word done. Here we go. So, I sit there and smiles back at me. Okay, so the benefits of thinking maps compared to a graphic organizer is that we don't have to hand our kids anything. We give them a blank sheet of paper and a pencil, right? And they start to create the thinking that happens, and we teach them to map out their thinking. That's why it's called a thinking map. So we, of course, give them consistency, like the circle. We want to make sure that they understand what a circle is, that we have a circle, and we may have to draw that the first couple of times for them, especially our younger kids or kids who have trouble with those kind of things. Maybe I just go ahead and say, okay, we're going to do a circle map. Remember, let's make a big circle. And so they make that big circle, and then in the center, I give them whatever it is that we're going to be talking about, so they can either glue it in or whatever. It doesn't have to be anything like that. If I was talking about a story, and I was looking for one particular thing, maybe we were talking about all the elements of the story, then I could give them opportunities to put that into the circle map. Like, those would already be created for my kids and they can go in there. But they would have to pick them out from other places, like from the words. So thinking maps are consistent. There's a common language for all of them, right? That's the cool thing. And it's easy learning and it's efficient. Like, I don't have to make sure I've got all the graphic organizers copied. I don't have to make sure of any of that. So I'm all about low prep, high yield strategies, and this is definitely one of those. So the students start to see patterns with this. That's the other big thing that we do. And then, of course, without anything else, there's all kinds of connections and organization that you start to teach. And we all know our kids who have working processing disorder, who can't focus into that working memory, they can't organize. So that's what this is all about, is getting them to do this. So yes, your kids can do those with these with everything. This is a circle map. The cool thing about the circle map is I can draw these very quickly. I draw a small circle and I write the word or what I'm looking for. So in mine here, I said, oh, we read the story about fall. So if we read the story about fall, and then I say, okay, what can you recall about fall? What does fall mean to you? And maybe the student says, oh, I could go to football games in the fall. Or, oh, the leaves start to change. Maybe they start talking about the colors of the leaves. It's all part of fall, and then fill that in around fall. Now the thing about it is, this outside is all about how they know that. Not, anything about fall. This is, where did you get that information from? So, how do you know about fall?
My mommy told me.
My mommy told me. Did you take a hike in the fall? Did you read a book about fall?
I see it happening. I watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, you experience it.
Yeah, I experience it, right? So these are things, just being outside, I know that fall looks like this. And fall may look different in different places. So then you may have two circle bubble maps. And so I'm going to compare fall in Kentucky to maybe fall in Florida. Or I'm going to fall in Kentucky to fall in Alaska. What does that look like? So we can do some, and that goes down to that double bubble down there that you'll see on that chart that I gave you. This is just one that tells you all the different types, the 8 different types of thinking maps. So another good way to do this one, this is a great recall. What do I know about probability? I told you I had tied into math. So what do we know about probability? I know that probability has to have a hypothesis, right? know the probability can be a maybe, right? Maybe comes up a lot in probability. Maybe it'll do this, maybe it won't do this. Okay? I have to make a prediction. I know that probability has to have an outcome of some sort, right? I know that I'm gonna make a guess of some sort. And then I also know that there is chance. Now, how did I know all those things? Well, of course, in mine, it could be probability happens in the lottery. I've heard them talking about what is the chances of winning this. And then I've also heard about it when I'm rolling dice, and we've been playing with dice this year. I know about this by a spinner. I can also do this with a contest. These are different ways that I may know about probability. Now, this is a good one. I'm working with numbers. And so I want my student to tell me all the ways they can make a certain number. 13 is a good example. And so all the ways I can make 13, all the things I know about 13. Well, 13 is greater than 10 because I have to do difference. I know that 13 is less than 15. Maybe that's something they'll put on there. So all the things that I know about something. And this is a good example of if I've been teaching fractions for a while and I want kids to retrieve information. I may say something like, okay, let's do a quick circle map. And inside that circle map, I want you to put a half. And then, so they'll draw their little circle, they'll put a half. And then I'm gonna say, now, what are all the equivalent fractions you can think of that can go in there with a half? And so then they just have to create those, right? Or maybe we've read a story. And I'm gonna say, okay, we've been thinking for a while, we've done the story. Can you take your story, and I want you to tell me all the big key points in the story. And so they just fill it up with everything they can remember. This is things that they can do. Now, one of the things that I will do with that is if my kid can't verbally do that, or they can't write it, I could either have pictures, pieces of symbols, or pictures from the book or statements from the book, and I would pull those out and I would let them again put the ones on there. So I may have two different stories and they have to pick out which ones does not belong and which one does belong. So that will give them that opportunity to be able to do that. And you can do it with a quick bubble chart with Velcro. So that's and then I love the fact that, how do I know these things? And this odd number, I've been taught odd and even numbers, so I remember that. But it can also go in here. Like a kid could have put odd number in here. So where did I learn this from? Well, I learned it with using a 10 frame. I know that if I do tally marks, that's how I did it, and my teacher taught me the 13 was this. So that's another one. Tree map. The cool thing is if you notice what it says about a tree map on here, it's for classifying. So I can do different ones. I'm gonna pull this off real quick. If I'm doing science and I want a tree map, maybe I want to talk about the types of animals, right? So they can do the different species of animals, because that's one that we could do. In this one, what's all factors of 8? And so the students can go through and they can talk about the factors of 8. It's 1 times 8, 2 times 4, 4 times 2, and that's all of my factors and products of 8. And so that's a way to do a tree map for mathematics. But in the same sense, I can do this with science, I can do this with social studies. There's all kinds of ways I can classify things for our kids. And so they can learn just to draw out those little branches. And then what do I need to, how am I going to classify? What is it going to look like? What am I putting in those columns? And so that's all really a tree map is, without having to give them to do that. I'm just going to teach them to draw out a little diagram so that they know. How many categories would you need? And so we can start talking about that. If I had said, let's do all the water animals. So how many categories do I need for water animals? Let's just brainstorm. 2. We could say freshwater and
Saltwater.
there you go. Got 2. Now we could go real terminology and say maybe we got brackish water. So what would live in brackish water, right? Because sharks can live in the mixture of it. And then so we can do that, but we can just do a tree map and say, okay, how many, it doesn't have to have 4, it doesn't have to have 5. It just has to have as many as that student needs at the time.
Would you like a story, like, the good characters and the bad characters?
Yes.
That was in a story characters or.
You could do a story with good characters and bad characters, that'd be perfect, you know?
Think of good, bad, that's not the right words, but you know.
Yeah, and I could use this if we were thinking about, maybe like one of the wars, and then, so what was the causes and what's the effects of it? So cause over here, effects over here, if we were doing social studies, so that's another one that they could do. And you can just have that conversation about those two, because you're gonna have to classify what caused all of this to happen, and what's the effects of all this happening. And then in between, if they wanted to, you could write about the events that cause these things to happen. So, yeah. So that's just one, is a tree map. I totally skipped the bubble map, by the way. I guess that's the next one here. But here's another one, place value. Alright, let's place value the tree. We think about it, we gotta break the place value down. Hundreds, tens, and ones, we do that. And then they have to be able to put those in there. So they do that with just doing a tree map. So another way that you can use it. A tree map for numbers. This could be something that you create together.
Oh, yeah.
So what are all of those products for the number 6? How am I going to get the number 6? How am I going to get the number 5? How am I going to get the number 1? And so maybe we create this together. And so it's a way that I can use that for them to go back to and see. I would love to have that on my board or above my board for some of my kids. Because they needed it. I'd love to have that also on vacation.
Yeah, the middle school has, like numbers put out 1 to 12 or something. And then in each one is like in the 6 is 3 and 2. And the like 8 is 2 and 4, and I don't know, somehow there's, maybe it's each one, so there's like, in the 2, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12.
Yeah, so
And then in the 3, there's 3, 6, 9, 12.
Yeah.
Like the multiples.
So you could do that with this. This could be one of those multiples.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's not like what adds to, but it's the multiples of each of those numbers, all the way through 2.
But so if my kid's working on addition and subtraction, there's no reason I can't do this. And they start to see that pattern. What happens with the pattern? As the first number gets larger, the second number gets
small.
So my add-ins change, right? And at any point do I see them, I should have actually started with 0 and 9, but I didn't. Because, I didn't think about it at the time. So here we go.
You got 0 and 9 until the bottom.
And then 9 and 0 again, so there's that.
So you,
But that should have actually been here, right? Yeah. So this is one of those things like I could do with my kids, and we could create a really good add-ins thinking map. Bubble maps. I love bubble maps because now I'm really thinking out of, so if this is 18, this is a good example of this one, is if it's 18, then I am looking at all the ways that I can multiply or make 18. So if you notice, and your kids will get real creative after a while, and if you give them these on, I saw a teacher do this after I'd done this training. She had taken these and actually had laminated just circles, and so the kids would lay them down and write on them. And so they had the first one, and then she would they would just, however many they needed, they would pull out a little baggie, and they would write on them, and then they would rearrange them so that they could have a way to write, like the story sequence or whatever. So what was all the things you remembered about that story? And they would go to writing, just, random things on there, and then they would organize them, and then they would have a way to write. So that was really good. She had one student who definitely had some trouble with writing, and so the aide was writing what he was thinking, and then he reorganized them. So then we knew he knew sequencing, right? So that was a big plus. So this is just a good way for us for mathematically to do the bubble map. Now on here, because bubble maps are just used for describing. I mean, that's what they're used for. And they start with a center bubble, like I said, but if you want to give your kids some options, dry erase marker and having these laminated would definitely work. But Abraham Lincoln, tell me everything you know. Right, it's another retrieval. So if I've been studying Abraham Lincoln, what do I know about him? I know he was the 16th president. I know that he was the president during the Civil War. I know that he married Todd Lincoln, right? He was a lawyer, so I just start putting those in there. So this is everything, and this is a good retrieval. This is everything that you can remember very quickly in a bubble map. And then I can go back and I have my own bubble map up and say, now compare. And so if you miss something, add to your bubble map. And I do it in a different color, and then I can study from it. Because the things that are missing on there, that I had to write in another color, now becomes the things I need to study or I need to work on for a test. And so we're teaching them some study skills too. So that's a good way to get our kids to do those kind of things.
What would you use as like a follow-up? Like, would you then use that to write a story or?
For this one,
Yeah, or are we
Well,
just testing what they can recall?
if I can test what they're recalling, or yes, I can use this, like I said, the lady did it and then they did it and then they had to rearrange it in a sequence around it. And then they were writing, that was a really good one. But she also knew that kid know the sequence of the story.
Right.
And that was one of his goals anyway when I was
Right.
in there. And so she was like, oh, check, he got, blank number of sequencing right. And so she was able to put it on his little check sheet that day for progress monitoring. So that's huge if I'm able to do it that quickly and not have to feel like I'm stressed with it. There's Miss Tony. Hi.
Do you have a bingo card that they'd like to turn in for the prizes, or
I forgot to get mine.
does anybody need a certificate for the day?
Yes.
36 hours.
I'm sure they have certificates for the day.
Oh, sure. Okay.
No, look, my bingo card.
This is under Hawkins's.
No,
Hang on, let me see if it's in my.
Oh, yeah.
It's not in your bag.
no, I had several different sides. Oh, I didn't know.
That is, we don't have
You don't have the phone numbers.
Most of these.
the one.
You got my phone number?
Yes, please.
Oh, yeah.
I can do that.
It doesn't have a place for phone number.
No, it doesn't.
No, we're sorry. We thought about that yesterday. Literally, what time did we think about that? About 3 o'clock?
Yeah, we may just have to text the presenters.
There are emails too, though.
Yeah.
Well, the gifts are over here right now. So
Oh.
Yeah, we want you guys to be able to take them back
Oh.
today.
Oh, on the circle.
I may just tell Dion to text the presenters. That way you all can let people know.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. They're really nice gifts. Like, it's got a number line in it, and it's got history books in it, and then it's got, I don't know, it's got, I feel my mom, but. She gave me a box and said, here, good luck with it.
I totally forgot to get mine signed.
It's okay. So bubble maps are really cool because if I need to retrieve information or I want to learn information, I can add to it as we're learning. So a bubble map could be, I started at the beginning of a lesson. So everything we're gonna learn about pyramids, and then I fill in as I learn new things into the bubbles. And so I can continue to draw little bubbles and put new information in. So I may start with what is the definition, and they put that in one little spot, and then as we learn something new about it, maybe it's a formula, then guess what, I'm putting it here. And so here's the area formula, here's the surface area formula, I said area, here's the volume, here's the surface area formula, you know what I'm saying? And so as we're learning, they recreate it, maybe they have to draw what a pyramid would look like. What's the difference if they have a different pace? Those kind of things, and have some conversations around it, and then they just fill it up. So now it's getting into, I'm describing all the things about a pyramid.
You could also just like, it could almost be like some other assessment.
It could be.
Just a real quick thing, like we talk about pyramids all day. Yeah. We talk about pyramids all day, give me 4 things that you learned about
Yes.
pyramids today, just real quick.
It could be a quick
Or-
exit exam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we read the story, give me 3 key details.
Yep.
Or ever how many you want, based on your kids, I mean, I probably couldn't do more than.
That would be like a large group thing I would do, like we talked about this and I'd have one up on the board or something, they could have paper and do it. But I'd be like, okay,
You both are doing F&D, right? You're not, so you could do this with some of your other kids, right?
Oh,
that's autism,
I do autism,
everything.
And you do F&D,
So that could be something we could do like that, but we could still use this map and they could add one, but it would be to their level.
okay. Exactly. And like I said, this is not something that you have to have pre-printed, right? This is something as we're adding to, because, if I was doing this real quick and I was just drawing lines and I was putting it in, I may have to draw a line out here and add another circle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then double bubbles that you're gonna see, they're comparing, right? So this is 51. What do I know about the number 51? And in this case, well, it's 2/4 of a penny, right? It can be divisible by 17. It's a composite number. It's odd. It's divisible by 3. It's 5 tens and 1 1. Different things that we can say about those. So that's a bubble. And then a brace map, which I like brace maps, and here's one of them. And this is components of part and whole. That's what we're looking at. So this is the digestive system. Well, what's in the digestive system? These are the only things I can remember, so don't. Okay. I'm not a science teacher. I'm just gonna say that right now. But mouth, esophagus, stomach, and intestines, right? The more parts of the digestive system. And then I was like, okay, in the mouth, what do I have that I need for digestive? Well, saliva, teeth, tongue. Okay, there's that. And then I was like, okay, my esophagus, I couldn't think of anything. I'm just being honest here. Stomach, I've got acids, right? There's acids in my stomach. There's a stomach lining that I probably should put on here, some other stuff. And then in the intestines, I have a small and large. Now, can I go into more detail as I'm learning? Absolutely, this is what I know. So this could be a pre-check. What do I know? So bracing, this is one that's great because I got a gallon. Well, how many quarts do you think's in a gallon? So the kids start doing that. Well, in a quart, let's think about a quart. How many pints does it have? A quart has 2 pints in it, right? Then how many cups? And I can go into teaspoons if I wanted to. But we could continue on with this and they could be able to do that conversion. So that's another way that I can use a brace map.
Could we use that one almost like a story, like the name of the story, beginning, middle, end?
Yes.
Well, you could do like the setting thing.
Or
and
you can
then
break it down
characters
that way.
and then go out and see who the main character is.
Absolutely.
So you can do it both ways, beginning, middle, end, or like she said, theme, character, setting, and something.
Yes. So that's a good way to do that. It's really quick and easy and I can fill those in as I'm going through it. So that's what a brace map is. I think I've got one more brace map on here for mathematics.
We got
So now I've got 48. What do I know about 48? That's 6 and 8. What do I know about 6? I know it's 2 and 3. What do I know about 8? 2 and 4. I have factored this out, right? Because now it's 2 times 2 times 3 times 4, right? I factored it out. Now I can go even farther and say this one has to be factored on out because 4
It's 2 and 2.
is 2 and 2, and then I know my exact factors for that. And so we can do those. Here you go.
Oh.
673. What do I know about 673? It's place value, right? I know it's 670 and 3. I broke that down. I know that 6 is 600 is 6 times 100. I know that 7 is 7 times 10. I know that 3 is 3 times 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the kids can do that.
Yeah, it was a lot of stuff.
Well, and if my kids was drawing this, they would only draw squares, right?
Yeah.
They would draw lines here. They would draw just maybe even dots down here. They wouldn't even do that. But I just want to give you guys an example of that.
Yes.
Or, again, we can lay this out, or they'll hand them the vehicle to do this and they can do it from there. So that's another way to do a brace map. Now, this is called a bridge map. This one right here, I think of like the community property is what I would use it for in mathematics, or one of the properties, so that they can see it and they can make a comparison. So 3 plus 4 is to 7, right? And 4 plus 3 is to 7, right? In comparison. It's the same for the next one and the next one. Now, I don't think I have this one on the next one. I should have made these like exactly like my PowerPoint. That would have been a smart thing to do. But sometimes I'm just not that smart.
It all makes sense, when you're doing it.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm studying minerals, right, in science. And I'm thinking, okay, where are all these minerals coming from, right? And so now I'm comparing the mineral to the state where we get it. And so the kids have to do that comparison. So Ronan in California is a big one, right? That's where we get all that. Bronze is in Texas. And then, of course, can't even pronounce that word, but it's in Arizona. So, and we could go on to say coal in Kentucky, right? So all of those could go in there. If we were talking about land and agriculture and what happens in those areas, we could talk about so in Kentucky, what do we have? Horses and dairy, right? So we could do either horses and in Kentucky. What do they have in Georgia?
Peaches.
Peaches. What do we have in Florida?
Peaches.
Peaches. Because that's what we farm, right? So what do we have in Florida? Oranges. Yeah, so we could go through and we could talk about what is their agriculture in those areas. So that's another one.
Could do like land forms too, like what type of land,
Absolutely.
or weather, we've already talked about weather, but you could do weather mostly.
So that's what a bridge map is, it's just a comparison. We want to see the analogies between them. And so you can use them different ways.
Could you use that one in English somehow? I just keep trying to compare.
You can compare
to, like,
stories. What's the settings? What's the, you could do, what's the settings in comparison in the stories? Like, this is the story or this is the character and maybe their personalities.
Mhm.
You can do those.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you were comparing the story and the movie,
Ooh, yeah.
that would be a good one. So you can do those. So this is another bridge map. I took a half, and so let's do a half. What do you know about a half? And they could just send the pictures down below. Like if my student needed to just do pictures, I could have done pictures. But if they can tell me that a half is 5/8 or it's 4/8, you know, I said 5/8, 5/10, 4/8. I'll get it here in a minute. It's a long day. It's a Friday and it's past 2 o'clock. That's all I'm saying. It's better than day when it was a Thursday and it was 1 o'clock.
Yes.
He told us all to have a good weekend. Like he was done. Oh, it was a Thursday. We're like, no, Doug, we gotta come back tomorrow. This is what we were doing to Equipment Minds, by the way. So 1/3 and 6/18. That's there. We could do 1/4, and this one's a good one because our kids need to know about that quarter, right? So that's what we want them to do. And then, of course, bridge maps, tree maps, we can get into those with different measurements. And this is a good one. We do the symbol at the top and their name at the bottom. Right? So they're going through there, parallel lines, perpendicular lines, an angle, what does that look like? Maybe even symbols, the plus sign,
Yeah.
subtraction,
Greater
multiplication,
than.
division, greater than, less than. All of those would be important for our students to see. And then, of course, I love this one. This tree map, well, angles, what are all the types of angles? And then, let's think about what are all the things that we need to know about those angles and put underneath there. So, that one there, I love the fact that we can use those bridge maps for those. And then this is a double bubble. What do we know about? And this is in mathematics. I'm going to,
It's almost like a compare and contrast.
it is a compare and contrast. Good catch. Good catch. Double bubbles are a compare and contrast.
You know, just like what they all have in common, and then.
I didn't do a double bubble. I did this one though. I love this one next one. So there's another one, pyramid and prism. What's the difference between them?
Mhm.
And then that's just a blank one. Now flow maps, we've done flow maps. This is great for setting the story, right? I know that this is what we do, but flow maps are also good for math. Because if you're reading the story, or you're reading that word problem, where do I start?
Mhm.
What's gonna change? What's that new amount? Now, is there something else I have to do? Because if there's multiple parts in that they have to do, the 2-step, then I need to make sure they've got all of that, and a flow map will help them to see that. Right? And the only thing they're doing is drawing an arrow in between. I mean, let's be honest, all they're doing is drawing an arrow and getting them to that point. And so that's what a good flow map is for. Also, good flow map is good for our kids who need directions.
Mhm.
Alright? So, I've been misbehaving for a bit, but I know what I'm supposed to do. Right? So we do a flow map. I walk into the room. What am I supposed to do? Maybe I'm supposed to put up a coat. And I'm supposed to put up my backpack. And then I need to put my homework in the bin. So I I have to unzip my backpack, right, to go get my homework out, put it in the bin. Or maybe I had a note from mom, I had to be signed, still needs to go in the bin, because it's part of homework. Get my reading book out, my paper, and my notebook, so I can go do that, that's my next step, that's on my flow now. And then I'm going to go over and I'm gonna sit quietly, maybe I'm supposed to pre-read. Or maybe I'm supposed to do a little writing assignment, whatever it is, he gets me ready for what I'm supposed to do next. So we can use flow maps for behavior.
Those are like our visual schedules
Yeah.
that we use a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and in your visual schedules, you may have time, but if my kid doesn't understand what in between that time I'm exactly supposed to do, maybe I need a little flow thing out here that says this is what I'm gonna be doing. Or I'm gonna be checking off my first, second, third, fourth thing I need to be doing. Here's another flow map. So this is, we all love algebra. I love algebra. So my flow map says, okay, what do I need to solve for? I need to solve for x. So let's talk about x. What did I do to x up here? Well, I multiplied it by 2. And then I added 6. And so I got 2x plus 6, and it has to be equal to 22. So then I go over here and I say, okay, if I added 6, I'm going to take away 6. And so now I'm at 16. And so then I go over to here and I say, oh, I've got to do the opposite of and divide it by 2. And so I'm going to get 8. And then that's going to give me my x. So I'm working backwards, right?
Yes.
So one thought with a flow map that I can work backwards. And by the way, this goes right along with my bead string. Y'all don't know that. Just saying. I showed you
Yes.
earlier with the
It
bead
is
string.
very neat, I like it.
All right, the flow maps are multiple flow maps that you can have for your students, of course. You know, circle the digit, this is for rounding. That's a hard one for our kids, they don't understand rounding, we all know this. And so, and down at the bottom, maybe these are my directions at the top, we've copied them down, now I can use them and I can go below it and I can actually do my roundings. And so they know what to do. So flow maps help with those kind of things. And then, of course, these are some resources that you can go and you can actually look up online. I gave you one of the resources right there. This one right here, I love this one, because this is so mean. Just saying. I said cause and effect. That's the best thing about these, right? I'm tired. Why am I tired? Well, because I don't get enough sleep. My diet is crap, we know this. And I have an illness, maybe. I don't have an illness, but my sister has an illness. What's the cause? Well, I end up missing school. I'm unable to complete assignments. And then, of course, I don't want or spend any social time because I'm just exhausted. And so that's the effects of it. So cause and effect is great for these two. So in a story, you can talk about the cause and effect. Alexander, who used to be rich last Sunday, is a great book to do cause and effect on. If I'm doing Alexander, who used to be rich, and I put in here, Alexander loses his money, what caused him to lose his money? And then what effect did he have at the end? So there's a great way to do this with cause and effect. And the first thing that Alexander buys is bubble gum. He buys 3 things of bubble gum. So he wants gum. The effect is he loses 15 cents, so now he's at 85, right? Then what's the next thing that causes him to lose his money? And then so maybe I think he rents a snake. Is that right?
I can't remember, I know.
I know, well, anyway, I know he rents a snake at some point, you know, and that cost him 10 cents. Right? Then he loses some money. And then he kicks his brother, and he gets fined. And then they can go all the way down through here, and they can take away from that dollar and the cause and effect until he has no money left. So that's a good way to do one of these charts too. But any questions about how to use this? Or ways that you might have that's different from what I gave you?
So I really like these. Anytime I come to any of these, my husband teaches high school English, so while I'm thinking for me, I'm like, ooh, I can take this home and do this, you know.
Yeah. Do you want an extra one of these so he can have it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. Do you want a couple extra of these to give out?
Yeah, I'll give it to, Caitlin.
Anybody who's teaching like reading or social studies, these would be perfect for them. So,
He likes a good graphic organizer, so these are kind of good.
but yeah, and the cool thing about this is it's all about the kid doing it. So like, maybe I just said, hey, we've been talking about triangles. Okay, I want you to put triangles right here. Now, in your circle map, tell me everything you can remember about triangles. And so just try to, just go ahead, you got some paper there. Everything you can remember about triangles. I think I just wrote down on some marker, that's okay. I can't scroll, that's really little. Anyway, so just a couple of it up there is 3 sides, has to have a base, maybe. Alright, we've gotta have, I can put formulas up there with a triangle, right? What's some other things that you guys put up there?
A cute right too.
Oh, a cute right number 2, so we're classifying. Other ways we get an equilateral, right? I mean, because we have equilateral triangles, because it's an isosceles. So,
It's a shape.
oh, it's a shape, that's a good one.
I saw drew one.
That's
very basic
one. Look at there.
I also put a yield sign. I put it to sign.
There you go.
Like it's a road sign.
Yeah.
Well, it is.
It is.
That's what it is. So where do you see it? Maybe out here it could be the yield sign, because I know it's a triangle because of the yield sign, right?
It's pointy.
It's pointy. There you go. It's got
It's
3
got
My babies would say it's
3
pointy.
It's
sides.
got 3 points.
It's got 3
It's what they
sides.
tell.
Yes.
I put it as angles, but
Oh, it
you
has
went
angles.
very like specific.
So,
that's it.
These are some things that we could do, and quickly, I would try to go ahead and have as many as I possibly could in there, and then the kids could fill in as they needed to from what they remember to what I did. So it's a good way for them to be able to have that.